To make Nutella Cronuts, you need puff pastry, Nutella, butter, caster sugar, cinnamon, 2 muffin tins, a cooling rack, a palette knife or any knife, 2 teaspoons, and a clean work area, also a bowl. Okay, so start by laying out all of the puff pastry. I use 6 sheets to make 24 cronuts, but you can use less. Preheat your oven to 190 degrees Celsius, fan forced. And start by greasing the muffin tins with the butter. Just make sure you use butter and not oil. Now, if the way I'm doing it concerns you a little bit, do as I say and not as I do. I'm just doing it the very easy, quick, and rather lazy way. Next, get out the Nutella and your palette knife, and you want a big scoop of the Nutella. If it's winter, it's going to be very hard to spread, and I had some difficulty with mine. So what I did is I just popped the Nutella jar into the microwave for 30 seconds, and that just softened the Nutella to create a really nice consistency for spreading. Now, I spread my Nutella across the whole pastry sheet. I like a very thin layer, although you might not think this is thin. You might want thick, more thick than I'm doing it, depending on how addicted to Nutella you are. And just make sure to leave a thin border around each sheet of pastry. Okay, so grabbing a sheet and a knife, you're going to create a cut all the way down the middle of each sheet of pastry. And so every square will now become 2 rectangles. Mum's hot tip is that you use a cutting board underneath each pastry sheet to avoid scratches in the stone bench. Not that I got any, of course. Radio. Next, we fold each section of pastry over itself a bunch of times until you reach the end. Each fold is about maybe 2 fingers in width. So they're pretty thick, but pretty thin at the same time. And see the end of the pastry here, you want to actually have that end up in the middle. So you need to kind of keep rolling it and massage it until you have a nice line down the center. And the reason why is because the next step in the method is to cut each roll of pastry down the center. And you want to make sure each piece is as even as possible. So you just massage it until you have a nice line down the very center like this. And just repeat this process for every single little pastry scroll. To save your fingers from getting dirty and to halve the time, you can just make your folds with the plastic and then make that split at the end. Just pull them apart and then make sure you massage each piece to make sure that line is right down the center. Now with a knife, you're going to cut down the center, and that's why it's crucial to have those folds in the very center. So just massage it even more if you need to, and then make your cuts and then separate the pieces so that you end up with 24 individual pieces of Nutella-filled pastry. So that's done now. All right, next step is pick up each piece of pastry. You're going to twist each piece. By now, hopefully each sheet of puff pastry has defrosted and you can kind of mold this pastry easily. And then, okay, did you see what I did? I kind of wrapped it around and made a spiral, and then I just stick that end bit to the cronut. So I'll show you again. You pick up a piece and then you just twist, twist, twist as much as you want. It just kind of stretches it out to make it longer, and then you can create that spiral effect by wrapping it around itself, and then you just kind of press that end bit into the rest of it, and it creates this nice, beautiful, uncooked Nutella cronut. And place it in the muffin tin and repeat for all of the strips of pastry. So just twisting, 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 and then you wrap around in that spiral and then stick the end, and that's it. Pop it in the tin. So twisting, twisting, and then you wrap it around just like this. And it's quite beautiful. If you look at the other side of it, so if you twist it around the other way, that's what the bottom looks like, much like the top. Just make sure that the top is displayed because we want our Nutella cronuts to look as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So I'm just twisting and creating those spirals. This bit of pastry here is actually quite thick, so I must not have cut directly down the middle for this one because it seems to be a little bit bigger than the rest, but that's okay. It's never perfect. It's very messy. Also, do not cook with rings or long nails. I made the mistake of doing this and I made so many indents in the pastry with my long nails. It's not very hygienic, so I apologize for that. I would not recommend doing that. Oh, look at that indent. Whoopsies. All right, so you just want to finish by making that spiral. You can kind of be creative and do it however you want. They still taste the same. Do some cleaning and some licking if you desire. And now you need to, okay, this is a funny step, but it's called fingering the cronuts. So you just get a bunch of butter onto your fingers and warm up the butter by rubbing it into your fingers, and then you spread it on top of the pastry. And so when I first learned how to make Nutella Cronuts, the lovely lady Tammy, who taught me, used to call this process fingering the cronuts. It is not the most appropriate term for it, but it actually kind of works because you do just need to use your fingers to cover all the cronuts in butter. So you just massage the butter into the pastry till it looks like this, and they're ready for the oven. So pop both trays in for roughly 12 to 15 minutes. I usually don't put a timer on, though for the sake of this video, I put one on for 12 minutes. You can usually tell when they're ready when you can smell them, so make sure you stick around in the kitchen while they're baking. Also would not recommend cooking in a white shirt. All right, now we're up to making the cinnamon sugar, which is a good thing to do while they're cooking so that you can cover them straight after they come out of the oven. Now, I didn't measure the sugar, I'm sorry. I think it was probably about half a cup, nor did I measure the cinnamon. I just kind of put enough in to make it look brown. I didn't think it looked brown enough, so I added more cinnamon and then just gave it a mix. Now you can smell the cronuts. And this is usually an indication that they're ready, but I got one tray out and I have a little trick, and it's that when you flip over one cronut, if it's brown, you know it's ready, but this isn't brown to my liking. So I put them back in the oven for another 5 minutes. And then after that, I got both trays out, and this time round they did look a little bit more brown. But just in case, I repeated my little trick by flipping over one cronut. And look at that colour. It's a lot more brown, and I was very happy with that. So I got straight into coating them with the cinnamon sugar, just because when they come out of the oven, they're hot and they've got a little bit of that moisture from the butter still on them, and it helps to stick really, really well. So I just repeat that process and pop them on a cooling rack to set. Now, anyone with a nose in your household will probably be able to smell the cronuts at this stage, so be careful, because my mum was about and she stole one of my cronuts. I told her they weren't finished and she said, I don't care, and she continued eating one. It's funny because they went down in quantity as I was filming, but that's all right. So this is the last step. You just get a dollop of Nutella. Matthew here is eating one and there's a big crunch when he eats it. I told him to eat with his mouth closed, and he ate with it open just to make me even more happy. So I finished them off, and don't they look good? This is me grabbing one. This is Hamish grabbing one. We cheersed our cronuts and we ate them. Do you hear that crunch? Hamish seems to rate my cronuts like 630. Not really sure what that means, but I'm assuming he loved it as much as I did. You can store these out of the fridge for as many days as they last in your household. Not very long if it's mine. And I hope you like the process. Feel free to start the video from the beginning, and happy making.